The beautiful French countryside is the backdrop for the second round of the 2021 FIA Karting European Championships for OK and OK Junior drivers. The last time SA hosted a round of the championship was 3 years ago, and in 2014, Lando Norris clinched his world title here. The circuit combines tough, complex corners with sweeping changes of camber and elevation. It's a unique circuit on the calendar, and whilst it's a little old school, it's the ultimate challenge for the modern racing driver. Teams are constantly searching for thousandths of a second improvement in a world where every component on the kart can be changed, from axles to wheel rims, and even a slight adjustment of the seat position can affect the whole balance of a kart. It adds up to an intense competition with breathtaking choreography from driver, circuit, and team. The feeling is tremendous when you are asked as a candidate to host an event for the FIA. Your first instinct is that you want to do it, and each time I say that it will be there, I realise it's so hard. And I ask myself, will it be the last time we run an event for the FIA? Because I consider that it is really, really tough to organise a European Championship event. Most certainly to organise a race of this level, it's complicated. But it's been particularly complicated this year. Previously, we did not race before through the pandemic. And for me personally, it's not easy to refuse entry to the circuit to karting enthusiasts. It's heartbreaking. It hurts because you want to share it with all your sporting colleagues. Yes, we have held other European Championships and even the World Championship in 2014 when Lando Norris became world champion. We had Nikita Mazepin and Mick Schumacher here on the podium. I've worked here a long time, and I think that at this circuit the techniques of the driver matter most, in my opinion. It's best to say that it's not the engine which counts here, and I promise it's not me who thinks this. It's what I hear from the drivers often. So that can create and has regularly created some formidable races here. Let's go on a lap of Ornay-le-Bois with local star Evan Gilter. A dash of brake pedal into turn 1, which is tight and technical, before a big stop downhill for turn 2. A crucial overtaking spot on the course for the brave and bold. Up the crest, and another chance is found in the left, which tightens dramatically on the exit. Now you plunge down the crest again and control the kart delicately into the left-hander. Going wide is a one-way ticket to the grass. Carefully balance the throttle through the hairpin and along the short back straight, but there's a good overtaking spot next into the right-hander. You need a good exit because then you're back on the power and climbing uphill once again. Now comes the tricky final sector. The kart drifts towards the turn, you'll press the brake and control the kart as it tries to snap away in the left, but you'll put the power down again quickly through the right and keep it there as you hold the kart flat on the throttle through the final bend. Accuracy is key here and mistakes are punished. Karting is not simply a case of sitting in the seat and putting your foot down. The team studies a driver's performance after each session, and data engineers can use engine revs, top speed, lateral G-force, and even exhaust and water temperature to assess what the driver is doing behind the wheel. You can change multiple components on a kart during a race weekend. Camber, caster, toe out and toe in, stub axles, hubs, even screws from the seat and bodywork can make a huge difference. Everything from tyre pressures to chassis flex is heavily monitored and suitably adjusted, and with 2 karts at your disposal, those changes can happen in seconds. Put simply, the kart is your office, the racetrack is the battleground, so your body must be a temple and your mind must be totally focused and disciplined, because in karting, every microsecond found can be the difference between winning and losing. The Trophée International Handikart made a return visit to the FIA Karting Championships for the first time since 2019. Handikarts are for competitors with disabilities, with a new balance of performance class system to enable all competitors to bid for victory. A thrilling final saw over a dozen racers compete for the win under the watchful gaze of FIA Karting President Felipe Massa, who also acted as Grand Marshal for the start of the final, waving the green flag at the beginning of an epic race. H1 is for drivers with one ailment, and the karts in this class weigh 170 kilos. H2 is for competitors who need hand controls, and these are 4 kilograms lighter. The H3 class is for tetraplegics, or drivers who are paralysed, and these karts are yet another 4 kilos lighter. The result? An amazing race. Morgan Laveau would clinch victory in sensational style ahead of Michael Vacher and Joan Lascores. And despite Lascores eventually losing his third place due to a technical infringement promoting Alain Nicole to third, the main headline was unquestionable. 3 drivers from 3 different classes had crossed the line in the first 3 places. It was a historic moment and the beginning of an incredible new legacy for disabled drivers in the world of karting. Who knows what the future holds? One thing is for sure, it'll be very exciting to find out. As the final began, Freddie Slater took advantage of his pole position to head into turn 1 in the lead from Kirill Kutskov. But the tight nature of the circuit caught out several drivers in the opening lap, as first Jan Pisarovsky crashed out, and then 5 more joined him, as Harley Keeble, Josh Erfen, Adam Hideg and Zachary David were out on the spot at turn 2, and Enzo Deligny suffered too much damage to continue, and he pulled in at the end of the lap. The marshals were quick to start clearing the circuit, but couldn't manage it before the field were due to reappear. So the race was neutralised under yellow flags. The victims could do nothing but run to safety and think about what to do next time. Behind the leading duo, Alex Powell had settled into third and Will McIntyre was in fourth ahead of Matias Ferreira. Fortunately, the wreckage only took 2 laps to clear. But as the field were due to restart, Slater hit the throttle several corners too early and under yellow flags, and the investigations began. Kutskov and Powell did their best to stay with him and not drop back too far, but it was too late. With Slater already building a lead and the pair behind doing their best to catch him, others started to fall away. Lucas Samalisto's weekend came to a premature halt on the final bend. But it turned out he wasn't alone in the incident, and as Samalisto failed to push start his kart uphill, the young German star Maxim Rem was parking his own kart at the marshal post at the first corner. 2 brilliant racers eliminated from the competition. Kutskov and Powell were joining forces to catch the leader, whilst Ferreira had passed McIntyre, who was now under intense pressure from behind. Thomas Stolchemanis made his move, which allowed Arthur Poulain and Max Popov to storm past as well. It turned out that McIntyre had mechanical issues, and he would sadly fall to 12th by the finish line. Ferreira was now approaching his Kart Republic colleagues, whilst James Agozzi was doing his best just to keep it on the road. But Powell was in a difficult position, unable to catch Kutskov and losing ground to Ferreira. They needed to team up to stand any chance of catching Slater. Further back, and a battle was brewing between Rashid Al-Daheri and Kai Sorensen, as the Emirati duelled with the American lap after lap. The Paralin had the measure of the expert for now, but behind them, James Agozzi had recovered, settled into a strong challenge, and was now fending off Ian Eichmanns, who would lose ground to Anatoly Kivalkin and Adrian Maliero. After a few fast laps, the Brazilian had now caught the Jamaican up front, and Ferreira was in no mood to hesitate. His move for third position past Alex Powell would come at the top of the crest into the left-hander, and now he was setting off after Kutskov. In the midfield, Kian Nakamura-Berta was trying to defend from a queue of competitors, and it wasn't easy. With so many drivers so close together, trouble was almost inevitable, as Dion Gauda and Dmitry Madviv tried to stay out of it. Now that Ferreira had caught the back of his teammate, the Kart Republic trio started to work together and steadily increased their pace. But would Freddie Slater be catchable before the checkered flag fell? And another question was arising. Was Kutskov actually holding his teammates up, rather than helping them catch the race leader? A lap later, Ferreira decided to end the debate and took matters into his own hands. The nudge into the hairpin was a clear statement of intent. Go faster or get out of the way. Whilst these drivers are teammates, unlike the world of car racing, there are no team orders in this sport. So the drivers have to make the decisions for themselves out on track. In a world where there's only really one law: don't crash into your teammate. Crucially though, Slater was starting to increase the gap yet further, and as the laps continued to tick down, there was no more time to waste, especially with three drivers, Kirill Kutskov, Matthias Ferreira and Alex Powell, all wanting their first OK Junior podium. It was the Brazilian who ran out of patience first. He needed to make his move, and on the 19th lap, and with Tomas Stolchemanis closing in rapidly, he seized his chance. At the bottom hairpin bend onto the back straight, he made his bid for second. And claimed it. Unfortunately for him, there was no chance of catching Slater for the win, so it looked like second would have to do. Kutskov tried his best to retaliate and retake his second place, but Ferreira adopted the same defensive tactics, and there was no space. And now there was even more to lose, with 4 men in the queue and a 5th, Max Popov, waiting in the wings. Stolchemanis could see a chance to increase his own points score, and 20 years after his father Marek battled for the win, it was his turn to quest for the podium, and he made his move on Powell for 4th. Just one more pass and he'd be taking home some silverware. Popov wanted a piece of the action too, and did his best to repeat the manoeuvre on Powell. But the Jamaican had gathered himself together and wasn't going to concede another place. But just as Freddie Slater had begun the final lap and the run to victory, Popov snatched his chance and made it happen anyway. Slater had no idea at this point that his incredible performance all weekend, where he had scored pole position in qualifying, race wins in all 5 heats, and led every lap of the final, was about to be spoiled. The stewards decided that he had indeed jumped the gun at the restart and accelerated too early under yellow flags. It meant that his dominant display would be tainted, and whilst he crossed the line in first to assume victory, post-race the officials would hand him a 10-second penalty for his rapid restart, plummeting the championship leader to 10th at the finish. The excellence of his drive all weekend couldn't be denied, and his joy was deserved after such a phenomenal driving performance. But sadly, it would be short-lived. The penalty hands the win to Matthias Ferreira in front of Kirill Kutskov and Tomas Stolchemanis. Behind them, Max Popov finishes ahead of Alex Powell with James Igotzi in the top 6. More points for Ian Eichmans ahead of Arthur Poulain and Kai Sorensen, with Freddie Slater relegated to 10th. Freddie may not have the points lead he expected to have or the race victory, but he'll still be hard to beat at Sarno. The mission for the opposition is to make the most of this unexpected chance to move forward.
All the weekend I'm very fast in the qualifying, the heats, and in the final I start from 4. I only do it my best and I did it my first podium on European.
Quali was quite good. I finished second in group and total I was 8. After heats I was 3rd, so it was good. And in the final, the strategy was to have a good temp. I had it, but Ferreira was a bit faster than me. So when he passed me, I wanted just to stay behind, to Paul don't pass me, and I did it. I will be more concentrated on this process and work a bit harder.
I calm down for the final and no stress, concentrate only, and in the final just look to the front drivers and go. I will be stronger only for these races. This is actually my 3rd race in OK Junior, and I very appreciate to drive here. Very big, very strong guys.
We won. I know we won now because we have something happening with us later. We are fast all the weekend with many of our drivers. Some drivers have a little bit less unlucky or a little bit less speed. We know we have something in the pocket. You can win the race with several drivers, At the end we won the race and P2 also, because Ferreira won the race and Kutzko finished P2. Unfortunately, Power lose the third position the last 2 laps, otherwise it's P3 also. But I'm very happy about it. And especially we can reopen championship because with Slater with 2 double win will be more difficult for the championship. Like this, the championship is open and we'll see the next 2 races.
Kimi Antonelli set to work from pole position in the final with a sweeping defensive move that kept him in the lead, whilst Tuka Tarpanen and Joe Turney ended up being ejected from the pack mid-apex. And as the dust was still being thrown up, they weren't the only ones in trouble. With Rafael Kamara up to second ahead of Artem Sevrukin, Rafael Modenese on the Praga and Finland's Juho Valtonen were off in the background. The latter would get going again, only to retreat to the pit lane and retirement. There were 2 more victims on the sidelines, as Paralin's Alfio Spina and Ward Racing's Caspian Hagman ended their impressive drives together at the end of the back straight on the second lap. Evan Gilter was keeping local interest in the race alive with his brilliant move on Sevrukin to move into third. But as one VDK Racing driver was on the march to the podium, the other was out of luck, as Hugo Besson crashed out and was pretty bitter about the whole affair. Kamara was pushing Antonelli out front in a bid to extend his championship lead, whilst the race was heating up behind them. A rare mistake from Yuga Chukwu caught out the American, and he lost out to Martini Stenshorn and Yannick de Brabanda, as he learned the hard way that mistakes at Ornay-le-Bois are very costly. The man now closing in was his teammate Arvid Lindblad, who still had a secret game plan to deploy. There was clearly unquestionable speed with the British driver, and as he made a sensational move and accelerated clean past his teammate on the run up the hill, it was evident that Lindblad was on a mission to storm back to the lead. The Red Bull youngster had work to do. Elsewhere, whilst his father Takuma Sato was preparing for the Indy 500, young Rentaro Sato was out of luck, as he somehow recovered from this trip over the grass, but he would finish at the back. Gilter was keeping pressure on the race leaders, whilst behind him, a heartbreaking story reached its climax. Nikolai Solov, one of the favourites for the weekend, pushed too hard and exited stage left. Desperate to recover after missing a heat due to a light injury, he was out, and his championship chances were now in tatters. It was all too much for the feisty Bulgarian, and the frustration was overwhelming. There were now 5 drivers in the hunt for third position, as Gilter and Sevrukin were being hunted down by Stenshorn, de Brabanda and Lindblad. If fate had played its hand differently, Joe Turney could easily have been one of them. However, he was now off-road for a second time. The quintet continued to circulate around behind Kamara, but who would be the first to make a move? In the end, it turned out to be Lindblad, as he sized up the overtake into turn 2 on lap 12. 1 down and 3 to go then, but it was easier said than done. The ever-impressive Norwegian star Martini Stenshorn was next, as he swept past Sevrukin and set off on the Leclerc chassis, heading for the tail of Gilter. But it seemed clear that the Russian hadn't read this version of the script. He needed to pass again quickly with Lindblad on the prowl, and he made his lunge half a lap later, which Lindblad seized with incredible strength and commitment. An impossible overtake? Not anymore. Out in the lead, Antonelli had started to pull far ahead, leaving Kamara on his own in second and Gilter hanging on in third, with Sevrukin trying to shake off the attentions of Lindblad. De Brabanda and Stenshorn behind them then accidentally swapped driving gloves for boxing gloves as they traded paint on the run down the hill. No harm done, but it was a little close for comfort, and now Yuga Chukwu was hot on their heels. Lindblad clearly liked that move at the top of the crest and swept ahead of Sevrukin to move into fourth. Now he was after Gilter, but could he pass the local hero? As Lindblad successfully caught Gilter, Hwarang Kim of South Korea would end his race with 10 laps remaining. The Frenchman was doing everything he could to keep Lindblad at bay, but with the speed the Englishman was unleashing, it was clear the overtake was fairly predictable. Out of the back straight, and it happened again, Lindblad showing that relentless pace. Same corner, same manoeuvre, same outcome. Now the podium was filled with drivers from the Kart Republic factory team, but Lindblad wasn't finished yet. Whilst Lindblad set about decreasing the gap to the Brazilian ahead of him, the quartet he had dispensed with were now left to squabble amongst the remaining positions in the top 6 themselves, waiting to see who would make a mistake first. But it wouldn't end well for everyone, as Ricardo Gracia would have a disappointed walk home, joining Arthur Rojon in retirement. Lindblad spent the next 5 laps eating into Kamara's advantage, but it wasn't until the final lap that he actually reached the point of an overtaking move. And with a championship to fight for, and knowing how badly both men wanted the points, a battle between teammates of that ferocity would probably have caused more problems than solutions. So Kimi Antonelli discarded all the problems from Genk a fortnight ago to begin his renaissance and dominate in glorious fashion. The Italian was not only back in the title fight, but with the raw speed and discipline he showed in France, it was ominous for his rivals as to just how quick he was going to be. Kart Republic couldn't believe their fortunes as they eclipsed the podium ahead of Sevrukin and de Brabanda. Stenchon fended off from Yugachukwu and Gilter, whilst Brando Badoa and Luigi Coluccio joined their countryman Antonelli in the top 10. The scenes on the podium were of 3 teammates who knew they had completely obliterated the meeting, and the vibe in the paddock down in Dino Chiesa's awning was one of incredible pride and achievement. But now they have a new problem. 3 men will fight for the title, and despite their differing liveries, they're all in the same awning. So with 2 races to go and everything to play for, it could be fireworks at Sarno.
We've been really fast since the practice, and I think the only thing I missed this weekend was the pole overall, because I think also a bit of bad luck and also a bit of my mistake. I couldn't get the pole position, but at the end, yeah, I won all the heats, and then I was starting P1 in the final, and I didn't really push in the beginning for saving the tires, and then after I had a really good pace, and yeah, then I won the final.
Yesterday, not the best day. We missed a little bit the speed, and then we working to the final to don't be too slow. In the first 5 laps, I catch Kimi a little bit, but after I start to slide, and then I miss a lot the speed. After that, just try to stay in 2nd place and then make some points for the championship. I hope we go better, more strong for the Sarno.
The points are really good and the pace was phenomenal in the final. We made a huge step forward, which I'm really happy about, and I think that's the most important thing. I think we're starting to understand this tyre now much better. I'm starting to feel more comfortable with it. I think also now it being a bit warmer has helped me. But you know, really good week.
For one side is good, for the other side we are in the trouble, I want to say in the trouble, because when you have 3 drivers like this, for sure we will fighting for all tiers for the end of the championship, and from now to the end of the championship. Unfortunately, only one will be the champion. I hope he's one of the 3. I think we are in the good way for that.
Orne Lebois has served up 2 intriguing battles. In junior, Freddie Slater's frustrating penalty keeps the title fight alive and will give his opposition even more determination than ever to eclipse him. The 10-second penalty for Slater means he still leads the championship, but by only 13 points, when he could have had more than double the score of his nearest rival. It's definitely a setback, and at Sarno, he'll be tough to beat again. But now the boys at Kart Republic will be pushing to take his lead away. In OK, we now have 3 men in the hunt for the crown: Rafael Camara, Arvid Lindblad and Kimi Antonelli. Will the teammates clash at Sarno? Who will triumph? And how will the racers cope in the intense Italian heat? Next up for us, the Gearbox season and the Academy Trophy will begin at Wackersdorf in Germany next month. But in 6 weeks' time, we'll find out if Antonelli can retain his crown or if the new kids on the block can steal it away.